All right, guys, very good evening. We are starting up with another session with IBC, and this time we have with us experts from Unique Network. The guys who have been given the track of Unique might be super excited, but I know there are here people who have other tracks and sponsors allocated to them, but you're still here, and I'm super excited for you as well because learning from these guys, such as Mr. Felix and Sergey, is the most important aspect of your development journey as you enter the module 3, where you'll be facing the challenges and completing the tasks and multiple stages that we have given to you. So today we'll be starting with the basics of the stage 1, and at the same time we'll be addressing more on that. And Philip and Sergey will be taking you through the unique SDK and a lot more coming your way. What is going to be the most important part of this session is your interaction, your Q&A. So any point you have any doubt, please put us a query on Q&A or in the chat box, and our experts here will be addressing it for you. Sergey and Philip, it's wonderful to have you guys. The session is yours. Please take it away. Thank you so much for joining us once again.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Okay, so before we get started, this is the idea that we had with this session. We'll be playing you the video that was recorded on the previous workshop. And the reason why we're doing that is because we're covering essentially the same material. But in this case, we'll have the opportunity to stop the video and kind of kick off an interactive session if you want to at certain stages. I think this might be helpful for all the developers that are thinking of taking on this challenge. So there are two things that are most important that I want to say about this challenge specifically. First, this is the first time ever in any hackathon that there had been these stages that progress in difficulty. Specifically, this is an innovative solution of that we came together with IBC, and we really hope that it's going to take off in the world as a big thing, because what we've actually done is separate the bounty that was really condensed into this first, second, and third place into actually very many bounties. The reason we did that was to entice you to join in and to make an effort in completing any of these stages. And if you complete them, you get a reward, you get a bounty. So it's opening up the bounty to much more developers, which means you can decide how far you can go with this challenge. So as you might know, let me just jump over to the data I have. So the first bounty is very simple. Like what you're supposed to do in the first stage is just provide I think it was, let me see. The first challenge was simply to mint something on Unique Network, and that was the very basic. Show that you can create and any kind of a collection using the basic instructions. And for module 2, let me see, what was the definition? Oh God, I lost my definitions. Just a second. For stage 2, we're advancing the challenge further with customizing the capabilities of I think the challenge was POP. Yeah. So let me just for a second look at forgive me for this. I thought I had it all written down tidily, but so first here, we need to provide a challenge that is really simple, and then a mid-level challenge. And with these challenges, the difficulty progresses. Oh my God, I don't have to really come back to you with what exactly we provided for the challenges. It's silly of me not to know it at this point, but forgive me, it's about, I think it's the 5th hackathon I'm mixing in with this one. Currently, I'll get back to you on that. The point being is, with the challenges that we're providing, we have like 3 stages of the challenges, and each stage is progressing with difficulty. For the first stage, we give out 50 USD in equivalent token value distributed to each successful submission, and for the first 20, so it's first come first serve. In that sense, we'll have to find a proper way to address who comes first. I'm really relying on the organizers on that side to help me out with that. On the second stage, we're giving out $300 in equivalent token value to each successful submission, which will be reviewed for the first 10 successful submissions. And at stage 3, which is the really end goal of this, we're giving $2,000 equivalent token value distributed to each successful submission for just 3 successful submissions. Okay, so what the challenges are is in the IBC hackers proposal, which I will find in just a second to tell you, but when, and I'll mention it during the presentation, but what I want to start off with now is the presentation, the workshop that we had to start it off, and then I'll stop it at certain stages, or if somebody raises their hands and wants to stop it at a certain point, if you have a question, we can do that and answer to your questions. So here it goes. We'll be sharing the sound. I think we can start from this point here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here today. So I was told you are going to have hackathon soon related to POAPs, some QR codes, scanning and stuff. So today my duty will be to showcase you how easy it is to switch from Web 2 to Web 3.
Just to check with you, does everyone hear the sound? Sergey, is it, and Deepak, is it
Yeah.
playing? Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
it sounds fine.
Okay, so this will be the mode. I'll be stopping it from time to time, but here it goes. We'll cover the first stage where we initialize, where we go to the initialization of the SDK, and that's about where I'll stop.
Using our network on our SDK platform. So I will go through all the simple stuff. I will show you how simple it is, and well, probably will remove some fears among the working with blockchain technology in the first place, because
Hey Philip, I think you shared the wrong screen.
decide to clean it up.
Wait a second. Let me find my. Do you see the share? No, is something wrong? Wait a minute. I can't find my window which is playing. Yeah, here it is. Which one is showing currently?
Currently, nothing.
Currently nothing. Okay, let me just try to reshare the screen. Oh, in the meantime, yeah, so let's touch upon the challenge, the first challenge and the second challenge. The first challenge was to create a collection A and mint a few tokens for that collection using the unique network wallet. That's all. So that's even simpler than the essential task, because you're asked to use the unique network wallet. You don't even need any programming to complete that. For the second challenge, you will use the SDK to create a collection B. Start with deploying the collection and token images on the IPFS. Create a collection with a set of attributes and mint tokens with the images deployed on IPFS in the previous step. So a very basic sample. We'll be actually showing how this is done in this workshop presentation. And the third the third task, is to create a bundle using tokens from 2 collections, A and B. Collection A should provide the bundle root tokens. That is, only a token from collection A can be a bundle root. So collection B should provide tokens which will be nested in the bundle. Use the token B attributes as a way to define criteria for nesting collection B tokens, which means that you will be creating a collection which will have some attributes, and you will have in your dApp that you're creating some kind of criteria on which you can decide which of those tokens from the collections can be nested within the collection A. So we're nesting from collection B to collection A based on some attributes that are in the token B. Use these token attributes as a criteria for the nesting logic. Go no more than 3 nesting levels deep. So root level is level 0, level 1, and level 2, essentially. So 2 offspring generations maximum. So those are the 3 tasks, the 3 levels, and the 3 prizes that we're providing there. So to get back to the presentation, let me find share the screen again and push it forward. This is the one I want to present, I think. Yeah, this is the one. Share the screen and let's play it.
Showcasing to you today.
Are we sharing now?
Here you will be able to find what this is about.
Okay, and
Philip, we can hear, like, we are seeing currently your GitHub page.
It's part of the same video.
Okay. GitHub page.
No, I think, Felix,
Okay, yeah, it's correct.
I think it's part of the video only.
Yeah. Is it selecting purple now? Yeah.
Yeah. Right. It is.
That's part of the video. That's Sergey showing. Okay, so everything is good. It's very important that you also hear him talking, which is I think is working.
Just how to start working with unique network, how to create collection, how to create NFTs, and also how to work with nesting, which is bundles that we will talk in the end. Also, some of the main links are provided here, so you don't have to look anywhere else. So it's basically our documentation that you can find here, as well as SDK, so you know what to install. Also, you can find all the information about this over here, as well as, for example, some pages for REST API as well. So we also have a REST page where we will look into a little bit later as well.
So Sergey has made a one-stop shop for you there in that unique network NFT workshop GitHub link. Everything you need is already there are links to for every single documentation, link, and presentation that you need to accomplish the task.
Unique wallet will be required for us a little bit later. It's just a visual tool that we will use to work with our accounts that we will see a little bit later.
Remember, for challenge number 1, all you need to do is use the unique wallet. So that's an easy one.
Just give me a second. Also, we will be working with Polkadot extension. So as you heard, we are working with Polkadot, and we also using their extensions that we will take a look just in a moment. Also, a little bit of remark. Today, unfortunately, Opal network is on maintenance. So we have networks to maintain, while Opal is for testing environment that can be used by anyone and such, and Quartz is more of a production environment. So unfortunately, Opal is on maintenance today. It should be live tomorrow. So I will present.
Okay, this was then. Opal is fine and working now. Sergey, we had a little bit of an update yesterday for the SDK. Is this completed operation?
It should be fine regardless.
Okay, so it doesn't really matter because essentially, although it was just a very short stop and there's a new version of the SDK coming, everything we presented here is operational and working. There shouldn't be any issues at all in terms of using the SDK the way it's presented here.
To you on Quartz, but I will leave all the links here on how to work with Opal. If you want to work with it today with the Quartz, you can ask Philip, who is with us here. He may just give you some coins that you will need later on. If you're working with Opal, you can just go to Telegram bot by following this link and just send them your wallet address, and you will get all the tokens you need to work with.
Yes, you'll be using the Opal's Telegram faucet, definitely.
And Yeah, an extra link for Swagger SDK, in case you're too lazy to search for it in documentation. We will have a look on this one later today as well. So you want to start with Web3 development. First thing we need is ourselves and a wallet. Wallet is essentially a sort of account that we use to do
Sergey, we always need ourselves.
actions. On blockchain, if you want to do any reading, you don't need account. So if you want to do any read actions, you can just call it without any address, account, or whatever. You can just do it at any moment. For example, I can just go here and, for example, get a token from the blockchain. So I can just go and get, for example, token from the thieves collection, the first token. I can just go for it, and here we go. There is no such token. Probably someone just burned it down. Maybe we will have some luck with the forest.
What we saw there was Sergey actually pulled a token that was burned, that existed at one point, and this is the return. You saw what you would get as a return if you if you queried for a burned token. And there's one more thing I wanted to say. Yes, and the important thing is here also that the read transactions are not extrinsics that you sign, so you don't need to have an account, a wallet. This is the point of this demonstration. You can do it right now without having any wallet, without having any kind of connection. You can just go over to the Swagger and pull any information about tokens and collections in the blockchain.
Yeah, here we go. Some test token was on the network here presented. So for reading, I don't need any account at all. But if I want to do any mutation.
Oh, and by the way, the numbers he was choosing, token collection number 4, token collection number 5, were arbitrary. Sergey was just choosing any given token collection to show you this. They have no specific significance.
Methods, I will need an account, and I also will need some funds. That will be very clear to see on wallet, for example. So first of all, you need an account here, and you also need some sort of currency. For example, for Opal, it will be Opals. For Quartz, it will be Quartz. So today we will be working with Quartz. So I will have to switch it here. And for example,
and you will be working with Opal.
If you want to create an NFT for some collection or collection itself, you will always have to pay something. For example, well, it doesn't calculate it here, but it will take a little fee for transaction in the first place. And no, I need an image. Yeah, so for example, it will take a little bit of Quartz to complete the transaction. So just as an example. So where do we get the account? The easiest way is to install Polkadot extension. That's what we will do right now. If Zoom will allow me, please. Thank you. So you can just go to this link and install a Chrome extension. I already have it here. Here we go. Here we will need a new account to work with. So we can create a new account right now. Seed phrase is basically your login and password simultaneously. So this is the most important thing to have, and you need to remember it or save it somewhere. I will create a completely new account that we will use today for our today's workshop. Give me a second, and yeah, and we need the password. Of course, password is for your machine. So if you have a seed phrase that we copied from the previous part, you can always restore the account. So password is just for your convenience. It needed to sign transactions. We will see it a little bit later.
Okay, so the password here is of course related to the browser, but the seed phrase is not. The seed phrase is the core of everything. And in this case, since we're creating a wallet account, this wallet account is the identity which will be signing transactions on the network, but it is also the wallet that will contain and own, actually, and contain if we send to it, will own the collection that is being created through that identity, that is through that wallet. And it is also the wallet that will contain the Opal needed for creating collections on and paying for transactions on the network.
And here we go. So we created it. It should be over here. So we created a new account, and we can actually see it on the wallet page. I need also now, once since I have a new account, it's actually empty. So unfortunately, we have no money on it, no opal, no quartz, and we will need a little bit of quartz. So I will send myself a little bit of money. By the way, just before I forget, let's save a seed phrase here. I will show you where I saved it a bit later. So I need.
When we do the initialization, we'll come back to this specific place where you will keep the mnemonic.
To get some money, where I can borrow some money, I will borrow some money from here. So I will send a little bit of money to myself for today. So after finish, I will push the changes to GitHub. So if someone wants to work with. By the way,
that was me just skipping the transfer of money.
This is how transaction sub. So type a password that you saved before and sign the transaction with it. So transaction is to, in our case, send a little bit of money that we will need for today's demo. Just take the address of your newly created. Just send it as a single message, and you will be awarded with more opals than you can ever spend in your lifetime.
Okay, that was about it. We didn't skip all much. We just skipped a little bit of Sergey transferring quartz to his wallet so we can work further. I'm continuing on from here without skipping.
So very genius. But now we have 150 quartz, and we can start rolling. So what we have here. First of all, we will need two things to work with our SDK. First, we need a seed phrase. This is the account that will perform all the actions. So this is the one that will subscribe all the transactions for us. So if we want to subscribe a transaction, we need a login and password, which is essentially a seed phrase, our wallet. And also we will need an API link for SDK. So SDK uses different packages. You can find all this information and documentation and stuff. But for simplicity, just to keep your sanity and to make things once again as simple as possible, I recommend just using the REST API related package, which is basically called SDK, which we can find here.
And the reason why it was a call to sanity is because the SDK makes it really, really, really easy to develop and program on the network.
So this one actually just makes requests to REST API and provides a very good, well, basically interface for you to write the code that we will look into later. So we will need this link and the seed phrase for account that we created before.
In case you missed it, that was package.json, and we're working with env.ts file here, where we're stating this.
Will be used to sign all the transactions for that.
Take a note, though, that in the SDK REST URL, currently Quartz is being listed as the access point. That is, we're accessing Quartz network from here. You do need to change this to Opal to access the Opal REST API.
Now to actual coding. So this part, as I mentioned, it will be super plain simple. So we will use SDK. First of all, we will just initialize it for our convenience, just put our seed phrase inside of it so we can use it. So we don't have to sign all the transactions, it will be done automatically and stuff. So we just need to do a very basic initialization of a class. Nothing special here, except for the way how we create a signer. So this one is a little bit inconvenient, but once again, you can find it in the database and stuff. So we just take a keyring provider from unique NFT accounts. It's another package that is related to working with all the wallets and stuff. So we can create a signer, the one that will sign all the stuff. Address is something we will use a little bit later. It's just something we need to save. Once again, we have a seed phrase. Seed phrase is a login and password. It's not your let's say ID, not your username, not your wallet address. So we will need a wallet address later for some transactions, for example, to know where to mint stuff, where to send stuff, etc. So let's just save it here for now.
Okay, so I'm going to pull it a little back. So in the import section, notice that there's the import config from .env, and we're using this config later on in below at line number 19. You'll see SDK is a new SDK. That's the initialization, with the base URL being pulled from the env.ts file that we created earlier. Similarly, in line number 16, we're calling the seed with the from mnemonic method call from the keyring provider module that is going to create the signer. So this is a stage at which I'd kind of like to stop the video and ask for any kind of feedback. Does anybody need more clarification on this step? Because this is one of the most important steps and the one that is necessary if you want to start working with the SDK. Any hands being raised?
Yeah, Philip, we have one or two questions in the Q&A. Like Srinivasan is asking, like, what is the programming language required, JS, Rust, or Solidity, or anything else? I think we need a framework, and JavaScript framework to perform this, right?
Yeah. So this is essentially what you see here is TypeScript being used because it's much easier to use JavaScript extended with typing. So TypeScript is what we're using here, but the SDK is essentially JavaScript TypeScript. So this is the reason why we're insisting on using the SDK. Is it because it uses JavaScript and TypeScript, which is very, very kind of easy and approachable for most of the developers. We do have a fully functional EVM, and we are currently developing. Actually, we've just published recently that we've completed a EVM coders friend tool set that utilizes from the Solidity side of the works all the features through encapsulated contracts within Solidity, which allow you to do these very complex operations. But this is a really early stage, and I still believe that it is much, much, much more complicated and a much bigger effort to create anything through Solidity and the EVM on the network. Of course, as I mentioned, our EVM is fully compatible. You can do it completely on that side of the road. So there are two paths. There's a path through the SDK and JavaScript, and if you want to go a bit deeper, through Substrate, and there's the path through Solidity and EVM. These are equal paths, but currently for this hackathon, we're putting the strain on creating with the SDK that we've created, because we'd really, really love everybody to give it a try, because it makes life so much simpler and works like out of the box, and so little effort is needed, and actually you don't need to know a lot to be able to create a lot. You need to be at the level of a Web2 programmer that knows how to use JavaScript and knows what a RESTful API is, and you can make calls with it. So that's the first question. There was another one you said.
Oh, one follow-up question is, like, which framework, like we are working on TypeScript, and other than that, which framework we can use to access Unique SDK?
So the framework, well, we're using the SDK because this is the one we're providing with. Otherwise, Sergey, do you have anything to add here? What would be the frameworks that we currently provide? We have, through the mobile platforms, a framework for working with Kotlin. That would be the Kotlin SDK. We have the Swift SDK for creating iOS applications. I think there might be one coming up soon with the Unity, the graphics, but I'm not really sure if that one is in the development pool yet. Sergey, do you have any idea which we can add?
Yeah, I hope my internet is getting stabler. Can you confirm that you can hear me?
Yeah, we hear you clearly.
Okay, good. So Basically, REST API is what the name suggests is REST API. So you can make calls from whatever language you want with no restrictions and stuff. So you are not limited to anything here. The problem lies in signing operation. So in order to sign the message, if you want to make a transaction that actually makes any mutation, any change on the blockchain, you will have to sign it. And in this field, it might be challenging for anything that is not JavaScript, because in Polkadot ecosystem and building similar things, so it's all coming on JavaScript first. So you can use any JavaScript related language, which is usually just TypeScript, but whatever. I believe we have some tools for other languages, and yeah, I didn't follow them myself, so I cannot say for sure whether they have signers and stuff. So if they do have such a tool, you should be able to manage things. Otherwise, you might end up with, yeah, go on.
I can confirm that, because for the Swift and for the Kotlin approach, I will be publishing a video from a workshop that happened recently, which shows exactly how you can do it for the mobile platforms, which is very, very cool. So those would be, let's say, currently the three ones which we recommend as like the most approachable way to quickly develop for the rapid dApp development path if you want to take it.
So like we can use like Angular, React Native related to the, we can use anything which is related to the JavaScript, right?
Oh, yes, yes. So if you're talking about a framework for developing the dApp side of it, which is not related to the blockchain side of it, you have a wide open territory there to play with. There's no restrictions in any way regarding the frameworks for the front end and the back end.
Yeah, thank you. One more question. It's an anonymous attendee. I started learning JavaScript very recently. Will the TypeScript framework be easy and no so complex for a new learner to this path?
So Sergey, this would be an answer. This would be a question for you. I mean, I work with both JavaScript and TypeScript, but for me, it was like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes to switch from one to the other. It's not that complicated, especially if you've worked with other languages. But what is your opinion on that, Sergey? Do you have anything for the young developers?
My personal opinion that I was always pushing and saying aloud is take whatever you like. So it doesn't matter what you start with. Eventually, you will figure out what you want to know, what you need to know, etc. So if you're just starting, take whatever you feel you like. So you can try TypeScript and get like, well, it's too complicated. It takes too much work that I don't want to work with. So switch to JavaScript. It's simpler. Or you may just take a TypeScript approach, get in love with it, understand this concept, and be like, well, I'm never touching JavaScript ever again. So just choose whatever is up to your liking.
So remember the nodes.
Deal with that later.
Yeah, the node modules that we're calling in here, the ones that we're calling, they work both in TypeScript and JavaScript, so it doesn't really matter for you. There is one thing that is an important thing you should know about. At line 23, you will see that we, at line 22, you'll see that we use a lot the function await, and in line 16 already when we're initializing. So this is a very important aspect. Do remember when you're talking to the RESTful API, there is no, you need to allow the transaction sort of final state to be promised to you. You can't have the program be blocked in waiting for the response. So this is something that you really need to hammer home as a approach. But for most of you who are working with RESTful services, you probably already know this. So let's continue on with the video from here. Oh yes, Deepak, have I answered the questions? Can I move on?
Yes, yes.
Okay, then
stuff, where to send stuff, etc. So let's just save it here for now. This one is just for some debugging, and here we will create our instance for SDK. And I think we can start. We will follow along the lines with console. So I added a little library here called prompt to actually work with all the stuff. And yeah, I forgot to save environment, sorry. And yeah, it will take us step by step through the process of working with some very shallow POAP example.
Hey, Felix.
So first
sorry
of
to
all,
interrupt.
we will.
Yeah, sure.
Will it be possible to zoom the screen a bit?
I think, Sergey, did I ask you to increase the letters at some point? I think I did. Yeah.
It will eventually zoom in.
Yeah, it'll eventually get bigger. So bear with it for now. I can't zoom it because I won't be able to flip the screen up and down to follow as the
No
text
worries.
is. So bear with it for a time. It'll grow. The letters will grow in time.
Will create
Sure,
a collection.
Felix.
So
Okay,
collection
thanks.
essentially is our sort of schema or a box. So it defines the properties of what can be put inside. You can think about this in technical terms as a class. So it defines on structure, how it should be set. So it will provide us with some sort of validation, with rule sets, etc. And also it will be our box where we will store all our NFTs that we want to create later. So all the NFTs are tied to some collection. They cannot live outside of collection, and collection can be actually empty. For example, right now we created a new collection, and we will see how we did it. So creating a collection seems a bit, well, hardcore, but only on the first glance. Here's a good example.
Okay, everybody, buckle up. This is the tough stuff. So this is where we're going to be explaining to you how we created the schema for a collection, how to define the guts of the collection, what defines it, what it consists of, what are the attributes, what can you do with. So this is a very, very interesting part that Sergey has really beautifully portrayed for you.
It's very straightforward and very simple. It's just basically, once again, just make an object which is very obvious to make, actually. First of all, we need an address. This is just a necessity of SDK. You just have to provide the address that makes the operation. The name of collection, description is pretty obvious. Token prefix is something that is used just for convenience later. It's just a short naming for tokens or for collection in the future. It's necessary part in the same way as name and description. So this one is just has to be here.
But Sergey, it's limited to 4 characters, is it? And we can use letters and numbers, right?
I'm not sure about
the
limitation,
token prefix,
actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Actually, never looked if we have any limits, but I also never seen anything longer than 4 symbols. But
yeah,
I guess
right.
so.
And please increase the font size on because some people will have small screens. It will be a bit difficult for them to read. Thank you.
I have a small screen, actually. Well, let's see how I can do this. Actually, not a big fan of presentations. Let's see if this will help. Maybe. Okay, too much. 80 maybe. I guess this should be much better.
Sweet,
yes,
sweet.
Yeah. So the most important part for us here will be schema. This one defines which properties we can put into NFT. Once again, I want to remind you that we are creating a collection, not a token. Right now, we are creating a collection. And we define a schema. Schema will be what properties we can put to a token, a part of the basic one. So once again, name, description are basic properties that every token has to have, as well as token prefix. So this is a necessary part. You could not take it off. Schema, on the other hand, is less important. It's something that can be, well, put on the way for most part. First of all, we go with what schema we use. This part, please just keep it as it is in documentation. Those are our defined standards. So you can provide whichever standard you want. You can create your own and stuff, but it's very complex stuff. It's more of a root level. So if you just want to work with our network, just keep it as it is and just don't touch it. Cover picture is the image for our collection. So each collection has an image on it. So if we will take a look, for example, on scan, it will be a very good place to go as well. So
okay, uniquescan.io is the unique network scanner, uniquescan.io. And I think if you type in scan.unique.network, you'll be redirected to uniquescan.io.
Each collection has its own picture. So for example, we will have Velociraptors here. So this is a collection picture. So this is a picture for NFT. This is a picture for collection. So we set up a picture for our collection. If you want to follow some rules for the images, for token images, we can use URL template. I'm not going to show you this thing now. If you are very interested on what it is, you can look into description. I will just show it on Velociraptors that actually use this feature. If I will be able to find it here, and I don't seem to be. Can I copy the image? Okay, we'll just look at here. So yeah, if you can look into the URL, I will put it here. You will see that it uses this part with a number. So basically, what it means that it used this as a URL for the template. It was something like this. And yeah, I'm not going to show this even deeper. It's just for in the case you want to make many NFTs with different images and such, you can go with it. We also
the infix operator here is actually a macro replacement in terms of, so you don't have to, so you have a way to define in the structure of the schema some rule set by which the name of the URL will be automatically generated.
We have a different workshop that was done by another Sergey recently that actually showcases this case, in case you are very curious.
Oh yes, and I think we've got in the presentation of Alexander Saft, if you look at the Unique Network YouTube channel, there is a Unique Network YouTube channel. There is a Web 2 to Web 3 for those transitioning from Web 2 and getting into Web 3. There's a phenomenal presentation similar to this one, which goes into a bit of detail of how exactly infix is defined and how what role it plays in the schema, as well as the lower dash operator, which Sergey is coming on to next.
So schema version as well, just very technical part. And attribute schema is what we put inside. So this is just a metadata. We can put here whatever we want, like names, counts, just basically whatever. So once again, if you look at Velociraptors, we can see that they have body color, skin patterns, shapes, something like this. All of those are attributes schemas. And here we just provide its name. Pay attention to this lower dash. This one is used for translations. For translation reasons, unfortunately, it has to be here. It's just something that is very inconvenient. But
wait, let me explain that one. The lower dash is the default language designation. So when you set lower dash, it will be interpreted as the default language selection. If you want to add for French or Hindi or Spanish or Chinese, whatever, you can add terms in continuation, which will then be applied for a special case of that language being utilized. But this is the default language selection.
But you have to keep it in mind. So it's always good to have some example in your hands. But it's we actually have a very strong, a very nice typing system here. So typization will actually show you that there is an error. So if you missed, for example, this low dash, as I did as an example, typization will show you everything. So TypeScript is a very powerful typization tool for our course.
Yes, please use development tools that use LSP, language server protocols. They will latch on to all this and it will help you a lot when you're working. to find the solutions to what you're supposed to type in.
So even if it's JavaScript and not something better, it still works precisely well. Type is what type of the property you have. You can find all of them in documentation, or you can also always just go into the type in itself. For example, just go inside of it very, very deep, but you can always find all this stuff here somewhere. So for example, those are the types that we support, like integers, Boolean, strings, URL, etc., etc. So for now, we will just use a simple string. Array is here mostly for enums. So if, or not for enums, sorry. Array is here for if you want to make it multiple choices. So if you want to allow many different options for something, you can turn it on. I believe Illustrator doesn't have this option, unfortunately, so I cannot show an example quick enough. And optional is basically what it means. So whether this property should be filled or not. So if this one is true and you try to create a token without providing it, you will receive a validation error. So once again, as I said, collections are a validation tool in itself as well.
And what Sergey wanted to show you just a moment ago is that in many cases where you have multi-options selected through an array, you will get a drop-down menu in when you're setting the characteristics of a token when you're creating it. So that's what it would actually provide, an option to select, and if it's modifiable, you can even change it.
I was also asked to show you some more complicated and different stuff like permissions. Here we go. So token permissions is something that I would suggest you not touch at all, because it's something for very specific cases. So basically what it means that when you create a collection in blockchain, this collection cannot be changed by anyone else. It's immutable in itself, but you can change who can edit stuff in it. For example, you can say that owner of a token can change the information inside the token. You can say that the owner of collection can change the collection, or collection can be changed only by its creator, because collection, like a token, can be given to someone. So you can give a permission to, not a permission, you can give a collection to someone else. So ownership can be transferred, but you cannot transfer who created it. So you can originally just stay admin of a collection, even if you transfer it. So we have a lot of complex stuff under the hood that you can utilize if you really want to. It might be useful for some scenarios. It's really hard for me to come by with, but flexibility never hurts. So this is an example of what fields you can change. So you can just change who can edit the collection, like collection admin. Can it be changed at all? And can the token owner change, well, the tokens by itself? Can token be changed by collection admin at any point? Can it be changed at all? And can it be changed by token owner? I also provide this information about what the default values. So as you can see, it's just mostly just restricted completely to the owner of collection. So you
take a note here that the key and 0 and key 1 refers to the above mentioned first and second attributes.
As the owner of collection by default can edit this collection in case you messed up, which, well, can happen at any point with any of us. It's also very useful when you use this feature with infixes. So
here you can see it in the attribute schema, 0 and 1.
For example, if your database down for some reason, you can always change it, and it will be applied to all the tokens in your possession. So you don't have to change each individual token as well. So very useful to have. So I'm really pleasant with default values here. And moving forward, this one is setting up some more complicated permissions. I'm not going to show those things at all, except for the nesting. So this part should be enabled if you want to be able to nest at all. So by default, this one is actually false. So by default, you cannot nest any token into another token unless this was turned into true. But once it
Okay, for those of you that want to go as far as the challenge number 3 in the stage number 3, this is a crucial bit of information.
again, speaking about default values, this can be set at any moment by default, because if this one is set as true, this option can be changed at any moment. So if you forgot to create a collection and allow it to be nested, you can always just go and say, well, I changed my mind, now I want to allow it. Or you can change your mind and disallow it at some moment later. Now, when we have everything set and gone, in our case, we are creating a collection for attendees. So basically people, and I just created with two parameters. So we will have only 2 attributes, first name and last name. So very, very simple. And this collection will be created by just calling where did I? Oh, I didn't split, sorry. So yeah, we just call in creation method, just a simple method. We call it always with submit and wait result. It's something that you better use always, because this one allows you to use promises. So you can just wait and wait for result, because if you will go with just submit, in reality, you will receive a response immediately, because the call was sent to blockchain, but it will not wait for this call to be finished. When you make a call into blockchain, it has to, well, let's say do some calculations. I don't want to go into very deep details on mining and stuff.
But here's an important point. So you're using await, and you're also using the submit await result call from the module. Be very, very cognizant of the necessity of pairing up those calls.
So let's say you just need to do some stuff on blockchain side for 10 to 15 seconds. And that's also why it takes so long to finish those operations, like create a collection. And once collection is created, we can get the results of it. In our case, we are interested with collection ID. I send it as a result of function here. So this is what we called, and we got our collection ID. And this collection was created that it has an ID of 646.
Okay, we stop here. Now we make a little pause, and if there are any questions regarding this section of the presentation, this one was a very, very spicy one. We did some collection properties explanations, how they're built. These models you have in the example code that was provided by Sergey, so you can inspect it on your own. But if anyone has questions regarding collection properties at this point, this would be a good opportunity to kind of dive into that.
Yeah, hey Philip, I have one question regarding the IPFS URL.
Mm-hmm.
Like the URL which are using for IPFS, if we upload our image, then is it upload on the unique network?
Oh, you mean which IPFS? Sergey, can you answer that question? That's a very, very general, that's a very interesting question regarding what servers you can use. I think it's really an open issue. I know some of our teams use open source servers and so on, but can you chime in with the question here, Sergey, regarding the selection of IPFS servers?
Yeah, of course. So basically, it's just a tool, well, not even a tool, basically a service that we provide as well. So we have our own IPFS, which is a distributed database for files. So we have a method inside the SDK that allows you to upload files to this IPFS. I'm not covering this on that workshop. I didn't cover it on that workshop, but you can find it on the documentation site. You can find it in the REST API and Swagger.
And in our workshops, in our workshops, we have it in one of the workshops. I think the girls that were doing for the women's hackathon showed exactly how these utility calls are used.
Oh, yeah, actually, yeah, you're right. The one where they build up images from different parts. Yes, it's a good place to search for an example as well. I also believe that this was updated. The workshop code was updated after the presentation as well. So it should be very good to use and to reference as well. But it's just a suggestion. So inside of the token or collection, you just put any URL you want. So IPFS is just a more convenient way for the Web3 world. So it's distributed, it doesn't own by someone, and etc.
Exactly,
But you
because
can, yeah, and you can upload it even on ImageGuru or whenever. So as long as you have a working link, it can work. So it doesn't have to be IPFS in particular. If you don't
the
want
point
to.
being with IPFS, with the distributed and kind of the position of the image in the network, what you want to actually achieve is permanence on the network. But if you're doing a hackathon presentation, you're not limited in that sense. I mean, you can have your images disappear in a week the moment you turn off your server if you really don't care about the NFTs you're creating further existing in time and so on. Like, because in most cases we like to showcase our the accomplishments of the developers who take part in our challenges. We kind of encourage you to use at least a server that you know will have some kind of permanence. So in case we promote your work and say like, oh, look how nicely these developers solved this question, it would have like from now on to however many years it needs to stay kind of as an example working, to have it accessible to other devs to look at and to wonder and to ask, how did they do this, and have these solutions. So IPFS provides that kind of approachability. But if you want speed and to show how something is very complex is happening on with in your development cycle, you can actually use your internal servers or some public servers which are not distributed and are fast and so on. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Thank you. Now we can go on.
Let's move on.
Let's see how it looks like. Now we go to the wallet again. Okay, all the links are here, very convenient. We can also just look into the collection itself here as well. So let's look in Swagger just once.
You got to pick up on how Sergey uses Swagger. Swagger is such a good tool for immediately getting results out of the blockchain. So, and it's fully supported and developed in Unique Network. So do use it as much as possible.
But look, so we can just get this collection here, and we will see all the stuff that we said before, as well as all the default things like limits that we are not interested in, and it's very specific case as well. Read-only obviously false, some permissions, mostly default ones. Give me a second. Did I forget to put this in? Oh, wrong network, sorry. Wrong network. Words, please work. Okay, let's try it again. This one was 646. Yeah, much better. So we have it in true. We also have the owner. This is my address that I would just.
God, I love these real world examples of how to figure out what's going on. This was a precious kind of a lecture for how to figure out things. Anyway, using Swagger is very handy because it will give you immediate answers to, did something happen? Did my collection get minted? Did my token get minted? Did I burn it? What happened to the transfer? But that's one side of the puzzle. I think Sergey will be showing a bit later on how we actually use the Polkadot.js wallet as well, which is a handy tool for inspecting events on the blockchain.
Created. And we have all the attributes that we set. This one is plain view. This is how it looks in blockchain. So it's not very user-friendly, obviously, but once again, when we work with SDK, we can do it in very obvious way. This is our schema, for example. So more human readable form, and so all that we set is URL to the image, infix that I left as an example, and so on and so on. So all the stuff that we put here.
So that is the on-chain payload, which is actually on the block.
And we can actually see it in our wallet as well. So if we'll go to my collections, we will see our attendees picture. And here it go. Now we don't have any tokens here. So we need to create them. In that case,
to clarify, you can create a collection without it having any tokens at all. So this is what Sergey was showing here. Yep, there is a collection, but we don't see any tokens. Why? We haven't minted any.
We will go and create tokens. This one will be much simpler because we don't have to create the schemas and such anymore, but there will be a little thing that I want you to be warned about. So blockchain is, let's say, a very softy thing that is very cautious. I would use the word cautious. And it actually cannot work with huge amounts of actions. So if you want to mint, for example, 10,000 of tokens, it will not be possible. So blockchain will just go and tell you to get away. For that, I will strongly advise you to use smaller numbers. For example, I was told that 200 is usually a middle ground that works most of the time, but I would still suggest we go with 50 at a time. So don't create more than 50 tokens in a moment. For now, it's your safest bet, because if you try to overload the blockchain, it will actually just consider you as a, let's say, threat, and it will just ban you, sort of.
Actually block you for a time.
So this little code is my example of how to go with bulk uploads. So we will just go and mint by 50 tokens at a time. So in my example, I will mint only 10. Let's save some quartz and not waste a lot of it, but we will mint 50 at a time. Basically, we will just go and mint 50, 50, 50, 50, and so on until we reach the amount we need, for example, 10,000. So it will have to be done, well, just 20 times, I guess. No, 200 times. So not that many. How we create tokens. So this one is create 50 tokens. And this is how one single token will look like. This one is super simple. So we just need data, which will be an image. I used just plain URL, and I also used an index of image. So as I said, I didn't use prefixes here just for simplicity, but it basically just emulates the same approach. So this one just will put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 PNG files, and we will see what it is. Also, we need to provide our attributes. So pay attention at order, it's important. So 0 and 1, 0 was our name and 1 was our second name. This one is just a value. That's all, we don't need anything else. And for creating a token, we just call create multiple. We once again provide the address from which one we do. Collection ID, basically in which box we want to put our tokens, and just an array of our tokens. In our case, it's 50 tokens that we will create here. For this example, it will be just 10.
So in this case, as you see, we're following the schema of the collection to create the token, and we're just using a very simple utility to cycle through and automatically fill certain parameters.
And simple as that. Nothing else needs to be done. And let's run it and see how it goes. As I said, it takes a little time to process all the stuff on blockchain. So basically, operation is done on our end, and we just sitting here with this await on this wait result part.
Yeah, but we're using create multiple, which is phenomenal. You don't have to have a create function in a loop. You have create multiple function, which does a one call for several addresses tokens to create.
It should take approximately 12 to 16 seconds for each operation. So in this case, it should be done in around 15 seconds. And yeah, we created 10 attendee tokens. So it's our people. And let's see. By the way, we are inside this collection. Hello. Did I screw something up? Did I screw something up? Wallet might be a little bit late with scan. Yeah, Wallet uses a little bit different tool for scanning. It may be delayed a little bit, so it's not taking data from blockchain immediately, unfortunately. So that's why it happened. It's not like blockchain took a while. It's actually our website. I wouldn't call it an issue. It's actually a feature. So we have our
Backend collection, yeah.
for workaholics, which we used this image here. So there's just no the first one. So we created our 10 attendees. Each one has a name. In our case, if we will take a look, we will not take a look here, but each one has its name and second names that we provided over here.
It looks like they're all brothers.
And basically will be name one, second name one, etc. Now we will try to create participants. This example is just something I made up and it doesn't make a lot of sense. So we will just make another similar collection, mostly exactly the same. I didn't change much except just did it a little bit simpler. So I removed some permissions stuff, for example, and that's all. The schema for participants will be very similar as well. It will be just an event name. That's all. So we will put people into the, well, we will put events into the people later on. So
the procedure is the same, like everything we did up to now, just duplicated to create the second collection. No special case, no special magic, just a little bit different description of what the schema of the or the layout of the collection looks like. So there's nothing really special or specific in this collection, the creation of the second collection.
We created a new collection, 647, and we used exactly the same logic to create our POAPs. And I'm not going to line by line once again, because it's exactly the same as you can see. I even just removed some, this one I actually changed. I changed the picture, don't need it to do here anymore. Have you created? Yeah, so we have participation and tokens will be here just in a moment. Just in a moment. And here we go. Here we have all our participants. Now we need to put one token into another for bundles. So bundles essentially is just a tree where you can put one thing into another.
Before we move on to the bundles part, I have to ask a question here. At this point, we have presented to you the initialization of the SDK, the creation of a schema, the creation of a collection, and the minting of a token of a collection. Actually, two collections and the tokens for those collections. Are there any questions at this point of the presentations that you would like us to address?
Philip, not now.
Okay.
We can continue, I think.
Sure, no problem. Then we're moving on.
And I cannot describe it better than just a tree. So for this, we will have to just put one bundle into one token into another. And it's done in a very simple way. It's just a nest method. Once again, just a very simple call. Address as usual, we just provided. Deal with it. Parent, we show who will be the host. We have a nesting limit of 5, so you can make your tree down up to 5 levels at most.
So 5 levels is currently set by us. It's an arbitrary number, but it is calculated by the expected load on the network from working with complex nested structures. As the network grows, this number can grow as well. It can go beyond 5, and there's no reason why it couldn't be like 1,000 or whatever. But the limitations are that the number of transactions arises with the number of the combinations that you have to kind of combine in creating this structure. So the structure that is being created is a tree-like structure, and this is the reason why in this case Sergey is using the term parent as a attribute, because the parent is the one that is receiving a child token that is becoming attached, nested under it.
And you do it by this. You just say who is going to be the parent and who you want to nest inside, which will be a nested. So just say token ID and collection ID in both cases. As you can see, we have 2 different collections. So you can put a token from one collection into token of another collection. So in our case, it's event token will be put inside the person who is attendee token, and it will be done like this. Very simple. After that, I will, well, let's start it running. So while it's nesting, I also showing how to get the bundle itself, and we will just display it in a console, because Wallet does not support bundles yet, so it does not show these wonderful trees.
Oh, by the way, Sergey, does our wallet support showing bundles yet now at this moment?
Yeah.
Yep, so that's the news. That's the news. We can actually show bundles in our wallet at this point, so you can see it through the wallet as well.
But it will eventually. I believe it's going to be updated very soon. You will be able to see your results on the wallet page as well.
Soon is now.
And at any moment, it will finish making a bundle. Yes, it's done. Now we can see that it's completed, and we can see that this is our token from the collection 646, authentic collection. So the first one we created, and inside of it, we can see the token of the next collection, of the collection 647, like this. And yes, that's all for now. And I also left a commented example over here that you can transfer token to someone else now. For example, for your case on the hackathon, you want to send these NFTs to a person after they scan a QR code. So you can build it up and then send it. Or as an alternative, whenever you create a token, when you make it, there is a very interesting field that I somehow missed. I guess I missed it. No, yeah, I forgot to talk about this. It's just an idea for you to use. For example, you can just mint it on some address from the beginning. So you don't have to mint it for yourself for the seed you are using. So not for, no need to do it for this one. You can always just go and mint it directly to the recipient, to the target. So you can just scan a QR code and mint it at the same time. So after you scan the code, you know whom do you want this token to do to be created to, and do it. Same way goes for the nesting. For example, you can always mint the token inside the other token as part of the nesting. I believe it's covered in documentation. So if you want to explore this part, you can always do so as well.
Let me throw some light on what Sergey said there. So the initial challenge for IBC network for the Hackathon 2 series was a bit more complex. It was the requirement was to use the mobile, to develop an application on the mobile phone that could, when you scan a QR code, it would then mint a token of sort, or would receive a minted token for that. So this is why Sergey is displaying this possibility of how you can actually have a server which awaits for the read response of the QR code. How can it actually mint to the wallet of the person that has sent the the proper QR code and his address along.
And yeah,
So Sergey,
that's all.
that would be like airdropping a pop into another account, right?
Yes. So you don't need to do a transfer for yourself. You can just directly create it on the target account. And that's all from me. I hope I did it in time. And yeah, I'm ready to answer for some questions if you have them.
Well, that's about it. This was the presentation, the workshop. I hope running it like this for you was convenient. I hope we kind of tried to shed more light on some details which are interesting. I hope you enjoyed these presentations, and if you have any questions for us, we're ready to answer. We know that this is kind of a big thing to process in this sequence. So as far as I know, we have a workshop tomorrow as well, which will be the question and answer, kind of free for all get together workshop, where anyone who's interested in playing with this tonight or kind of researching any of these questions, any of these ideas presented here, giving it a try, testing. If you come up with some snags that you cannot solve that quickly, that you might need assistance or clarification on, we'll be there to answer your questions. And of course, we'll answer your questions now as well if you have any. But this was the idea and the concept behind this workshop. I hope you enjoyed it, and please come forward with any questions if you have at this point.
Yeah, thank you, Philip, and thank you, Sergey. Workshop was fantastic. I think all participants would enjoy this workshop. I myself enjoy. I'll learn a lot from you guys. I don't see any question now.
Okay,
Yeah,
don't,
so guys,
go ahead.
Yeah, Philip, please go ahead. Yeah.
So don't get overwhelmed with the amount of code that you've seen here. It actually isn't a lot. When it's just the core calls that you can kind of focus on are quite visible as method calls for creating collection and so on. And it's really, really very straightforward if you kind of follow through the way we showed it to you today. You kind of, the moment you focus in on the details where we kind of pinpoint which are the calls that are doing the magic, everything falls, all the pieces come together. So do not be afraid to explore. Do not be afraid to pick up the code and spin it up. Do not be afraid to kind of change it, adapt it. Maybe go through the documentation, find out what else is there, and play around with it, because this is the core around which any adapt that you want to create is actually going to be centered upon. This is the part that interacts with the blockchain. Everything else that you do is just pure fun programming for whatever project you want to kind of implement. And in the case of our challenges, they're very straightforward. We've made it really as simple as possible to get you guys to get your hands dirty. So because it's worth it. It's really fun once you figure out that, oh my God, how simple it is to create collections, how to create mint tokens, how to mint tokens to someone, how to mint tokens in one place, how to nest tokens. What you can do with nesting is like crazy, because you can create these whole structures of nested NFTs, which we call bundles. When you figure out that in unique network you can nest together not only NFTs, but you can create bundles where you can nest even fungible tokens like opal tokens. You can put them in the same collection with the NFT. it kind of becomes really, really interesting. And when I even mentioned that there's an aspect that we did not touch upon, which is refundable tokens, and which is really simple to manage, I mean, you know, the horizons open up really, really kind of quickly, and makes it so approachable to explore these new and exciting things, which I have to say, if you try to go this way on Ethereum and on Solidity, you are entering an arena of pure hell. So kudos to all of you who are willing to go that way, but we've made it easy for you not to go through the gates of hell to accomplish something. And I really hope you give it a try.
Yeah, Philip. So guys, to summarize everything that Philip and Sergey here have mentioned, is there are two important things that you should take away from today's session. One is that you need to test it. That's where you will get more queries, more questions and doubts whenever you are, you get into the work of what you have learned today. And secondly, this is the beauty of how the Unique Network has tried to solve a lot of challenges, and you doing the task. I mean, the stage one, I've shared the link. You guys already know the information, but I've shared it again. Just check the chat box. Everything you need to know about Unique Network and the challenges. So it's been segregated in 3 stages. First one is extremely simple, and which we already discussed here. But then even the main you'll start facing some hurdles maybe in the second challenge, or most important in the third challenge, and that is where we want you all to progress eventually. Philip and Sergey, once again, thank you so much for such an interesting session. It's always wonderful to see such clarity in the sessions that you guys come and bring into, and I'm sure the students love that, and they have a lot to take away and a lot to practice on and test on. And once again, I want to thank you for taking our request of segregating these challenges in multiple stages, so that the student developers get an opportunity to test their hand in each of these parameters. And that's a wonderful thing, and we really appreciate the fact that you have given that opportunity to all the students in our ecosystem.
We're happy to.
Yeah. So, Philip, thank you, Sergey. Guys, thank you once again for joining in. We will be seeing you all again tomorrow, same time.
Yep.
Philip, you and Sergey both will be joining tomorrow, right?
Yes, of course. We're there to answer. Sergey is the expert here. He can answer the nitty-gritty questions regarding programming and the aspects of it. And I can always jump in with the general questions and the ideas behind more kind of basic concepts and stuff like that, which I'm happy to do always.
Right. So a lot of humbleness from Philip here. Yeah. So it will be great to have you guys again tomorrow. So guys, do not forget, you'll be having another session in the same link, same time, with the same experts over here. Tomorrow we'll dive deep into the challenges, but make sure that you do try your hand out on everything that you have experienced and learned today, so you'll have more clarity when we discuss in-depth Q&A in tomorrow's session.
Also, I have to mention, on the Discord channel, there is a new channel that was created which is currently empty because the data from the previous channel was not transferred. So I'll try to fill in all the details. The essential one is the link from Sergey. I need to post it there because within that link is essentially a page that has all the necessary links that will lead you there. So that is also a place where you can reach out to us. But I'll make it available in the next half hour in that channel, so it is accessible to everyone. Everything that Sergey at the beginning mentioned about how you can access the data.
Perfect. Absolutely. So guys, you all know the channels. Just make sure you go and access the information and the resources over there, and you'll be good to go. And at the same time, if there are any queries, feel free to drop your queries in the respective channels, and we'll help you out on the same. So that's it for tonight, guys. It was wonderful. And once again, thank you, Philip and Sergey. And we'll see you all tomorrow once again at the same time.
Yeah, sure. It was a pleasure. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
See you. Bye.
Bye.